Hi, everyone. Slight hiccup with my mic there, so sorry for being a few seconds late. Welcome back to another live session. Always excited to show up for the audience and so happy to be here. As we come on, we'll get a little bit of a slow roll as we come into these lives in 2023. Please let me know how the mic is operating today. I got some complaints last week, and it looks like maybe the tool I use wasn't setting up the microphone appropriately and was maybe using my internal mic and not my actual professional mic, which I have right here just to confirm. Anyway, what do we want to talk about today? We're going to chat a little bit and double down in today's conversation about how to potentially land a job in tech with the limited positions opening and that's or the limited amount of openings, and a lot of that's going to just be about control, and we can chat quite a bit about that today. Okay, you can hear me okay. Again, I think that I might have literally been not utilizing my mic. It used to default to that, so it got a little weird, and a lot of people somebody commented, and then a lot of people churned in and liked that comment. So hopefully the mic is good today and we're getting that good feedback. So we're going to talk a little bit about getting into tech in 2023. I mean, I think everybody knows it's super sleepy and slow. I've stated that many times as I've hopped into these lives. The live sessions are slower. Everything's slow. And, I think I almost tagged a few of my career friends in a LinkedIn post this week to just say, hey, like, how slow is it? Because it's really slow, and what we're trying to all figure out is we're trying to figure out, like, where did all those people go? There's been about 150,000 people impacted by layoffs in the last 6 months in pretty big tech companies. We're just trying to figure out where all those people went, because I think a lot of them are just kind of sitting back and trying to figure it out and collecting their severance. Even for employees that, like Google employees, they were technically employees until the end of March. So it's really like they're brand new to the market because they were getting paid and the severances. And I think it is a good opportunity for current tech employees to explore what a great future path for them. Because I mean, let's talk the reality of it, right? What percentage of those layoffs were recruiters or people in talent acquisition? I mean, that's in the tens of thousands. It might be 20,000, it might be 30,000. I mean, the numbers are so incredibly high that, again, many of those people are going to need to do a career pivot. But for anybody impacted, they're going to be thinking about that pivot as well. We're here to talk about maybe what you might need to do to get into tech. And as always, I'm here to answer questions. Like every live session in 2023, we kind of start slow. We'll start some conversations. We'll start to churn. So anything that's top of mind, it doesn't have to be a question. It can be a comment. It can be feedback. It can be something you see in the market. Like, for example, I saw that Google was asking people to voluntarily leave their job to get like a 1 year severance. That's not happening in the US, but that's happening abroad. We've seen some of that coming from Amazon as well. So just some really interesting stuff that's happening in the market. And of course, we're here to chat about all that today. I'm going to do a quick prompt on my services, and then we'll dive into any questions as they come up. And if no questions come up, I'll still keep chatting at the camera. So if this is your first time here, my name is Jeff H. Sipe. The business is practiceinterviews.com. We have a $200 discount on our interview mastery course. I'm going to run that $200 discount through tomorrow evening, so all the way till 11:59 Pacific time tomorrow. That course, for anybody who's been laid off or anybody who's in the job market, trust me, that course is so insanely robust. If you play all out, it will really help. I do interview coaching, negotiation coaching, and there's just a ton of free resources. Still running the free Slack group. We have about 4,000 members. It's slow right now. Not a ton of comments coming in, but join that group. Everybody's there to support each other. And then I have 9, what I think are very 9 killer resources on practiceinterviews.com that are all free that you can utilize as well. If you like what I'm doing today, smash that like button. If you've never subscribed, I go live 10 a.m. Pacific time every Tuesday. And then I do new original content videos every other Monday. All right, let's dive in, and we'll have a robust conversation. We'll see how long we can keep it going, and just anything that comes up. please don't hesitate. Okay, Max, sounds good. Mike is good. Mike is good. Sounds great. Hey, Anna. Okay. Hi from France. Okay. Love the global audience. It's always cool to see where people are coming in from. All right, Max, let's pop into your questions. You were about to start a 1-year TVC contract at G and everything seemed approved. However, the hiring manager just told me that the hiring process has changed. Whoa, okay. And now contracts need to be approved by SVPs who report to Sundar. And there seems to be a huge backlog of contracts waiting for approval. Heard that SVP approval is also needed for FT. Yeah, it's probably, well, FTV could be a full-time vendor. It used to be FTC, full-time contractor, and maybe even for FTEs. Maybe that's rolling all the way up. Okay, so as always, I think everybody knows I'm a pretty positive person. I try and keep this pretty positive, but this is part of the challenge with Google and their process is that they create too many barriers to make it easy to get hired, and therefore it really doesn't create the best candidate experience. If all of these jobs need to be approved by SVPs and Sundar, I'm just going to tell you, it's going to take forever. That blows my mind. I'm a little tongue tied, which doesn't happen very often, but this is something that used to be a part of the process. So the process used to go through hiring committee and then it would go through executive review. Executive review was like the final sign off because when Larry and Sergey started Google, they used to review and look at every candidate and they kind of kept that process. They got rid of that process a handful of years ago. But even I had people kicked out at the executive review stage, but it definitely slowed things down. So what does that mean? It means that already slow hiring is maybe going to get slower. And that's terrible for the contract side because contractors are usually approved at the lower levels because there's a need. So this is really, really interesting data. Thanks for sharing this, Max. This might need to share this more publicly on LinkedIn or something. Oh, you meant FTE. Oh, okay. So FTEs are now needing to get approved up to SVP and up to Sundar. I mean, so this is kind of part of it, right? Like if you're going to go through the process and you're going to go through the process and you want to get hired by Google, you got to know that it's going to be slow and that there's going to be no guarantees at any point. It doesn't mean you shouldn't be playing all out. You shouldn't be playing all out to get all the interview coaching, again, whether that's from somebody like me or just a friend. It doesn't mean you shouldn't be taking all the significant steps that are going to help you have success. But it's just always a constant to know that if you go into Google's hiring process specifically, it's going to take a long time. Other companies move faster, like Meta, Amazon, Apple, these other big tech companies, they definitely move faster. And that can be challenging too, right? Because what we're always trying to do is we're always trying to time and get as many job offers at one time as possible so that we can have those competing offers play off of each other. Okay, this is super, super interesting. Let's do some more research on this. If anybody else wants to chime in on this subject, pretty interesting. Hey, Jeff, you heard from some recruiters that hiring managers are interested in bringing back potential candidates that were laid off. Some personal experience with this. Oh, man. That's like I get that there's interest. I just don't know the legality of that, right? Like what's tied to their severance. And quite honestly, like if I'm a tenured Google employee who spent X amount of years there, I got paid out for 2.5 months. I'm getting an accelerated vest of my stock. I'm also getting that severance package. I'm maybe going to be good till September, October, November. Do I really want to go back? Because I might have to give up all those things as opposed to going to a different company. So it's interesting. I mean, it's not surprising. So many people that were let go were incredibly talented and incredibly smart. So hiring managers desire and recruiters desire to bring people back. I mean, I get it, but I think there will be some legality challenges there. Do you think it would be worth it to apply for a full-time position at Google if you pulled out of their information technology residency program hiring process in college within the last 5 years? Um, so you would technically be categorized. I mean, this is how it used to be. I can't say for sure, but you would technically be categorized as a withdrawal. Um, I literally never looked at that negatively, ever. Circumstances come up that happen in people's lives that are always going to cause the need to withdraw. It could be family, it could be timing, it could be a million different things. So it definitely will not reflect negatively. Of course, what I'll tell everybody is applying's fine. I always want you to try and network in. The networking approach should not be recruiter based. It should be more like people in the role, hiring manager based. That's where I tend to see the most success. And of course, if you're going to network, I really want you to network with that giving strategy in mind. I hope that helps, but definitely, absolutely good after it. I mean, withdrawals are withdrawals. Stuff happens in life, and sometimes you withdraw from the process. And again, literally 0% of the time did I ever look at that or approach that negatively. Google Recruiter reached out to me 7 to 8 months ago, and I completely missed her email. I just saw her email for the first time a few days ago. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Should I reach out now and explain how I missed her email? And if so, what should I say? What if she no longer works there and she was part of the layoffs? This is for a SWE role, by the way. 100%. You're just going to say, I sincerely apologize. I missed this last email. I'm interested. What are the next steps? Now, of course, one of the things you want to do is, Walter, I recommend that you look this person up on LinkedIn, see if they actually are still there or not, because you may see on LinkedIn that they've moved on, they're open to work, and that in that case might be a little bit of a closed book. I mean, again, if somebody's reaching out to you, you probably have applicable experience that makes sense. So again, you'd want to try and network your way in or apply. Obviously, again, I'm going to encourage that you network your way in. But this your story is not uncommon. Sometimes it's missed, it ends up in spam. For some of us, like I know my primary email account, I rarely check it. I really focus in on my business account. So absolutely, like if somebody had emailed me there, I probably missed it. So it's not uncommon. So not a bad scenario, but look them up on LinkedIn first. Just check if they're there. If you can't see anything or get any data from there, then absolutely reach out. And good luck. And actually, now that I'm saying it, even if you see on LinkedIn maybe that they're not still there, try and send that email. See if it bounces back. Maybe it gets forwarded on to somebody else. So I guess technically it wouldn't hurt to do it. So I would check there anyway, but I would still try. Okay, you're now in team matching for an ABP role, but it seems like G is only posting jobs for ABP 2 and 3 recently. Why is that? Can't tell you. That's just going to be based on internal demand for what they're looking for in ABPs. And I think the challenge for any ABP, and we may have talked about this in a previous live before, I can't remember, but the biggest challenge for ABPs is that it's a slow process, even in good economic times. So when it's really slow, this makes it more challenging because I've seen good success from my ABP clients and ABPs in general to make it through the process. It's once you get to that team match phase that it could be really hard. But, if it's 2s and 3s, that's just what they need right now. All you can do is just stay in touch with your recruiter, check in once every 2, 3, 4 weeks. Obviously, you want to ask them their preferred cadence, but that's what you're going to need to do. And sometimes, again, for ABPs, it can be an extremely long team match process. So stay positive, but it could be slow, as you've probably already seen. Hey, Jeff, do you think Amazon subsidiaries interview candidates with no intention to hire? You see the same role open for months. Or are they looking for unicorns? I mean, There is a huge legality item if you're posting jobs and you're posting jobs with no intent to hire, like especially for an Amazon subsidiary, like that could get them in trouble. And you want to think that these organizations are doing things on the up and up, that they wouldn't be posting jobs just to see like what comes in. Sometimes they're looking for the purple squirrel or a unicorn. So it's really hard to say. Uh, the job posting space is not always going to be 100% clean. Like, I don't think it ever will be. So I think sometimes jobs stay up and they're not actually available, or they repost jobs. Some companies will do that to just see what will come in. So the job posting world is a tricky one, and it would be hard to like legally hold up in court if somebody was doing it and it wasn't on the up and up. So it can just be a little bit challenging. Yeah. Okay. 16 minutes in and we're out of questions. Again, I think I've been pretty straightforward and candid and honest. I mean, it's just slow. Like, especially we're in the big tech space. So all these companies are down like 70-80% in terms of total positions that they have open. So what happens is that these live sessions get really slow. And of course, I'm going to show up every week and I'm going to chat for as long as people want to hang out and chat with me. That's what I'm here to do. And I actually really love doing this. I love chatting with people. But I'll continue to like highlight different things as we chat through things. And as questions come in, I'll answer them. And then if we really get to a stopping point where I'm just blabbing at the camera, we'll stop the live. Recruiter was laid off before scheduling the interview. I tried to reach out to her connections, but they were also laid off. Okay. Let's see if I saved this email. Let's see if I can get that email address for you. Let's see. I always seem to forget because it's changed a couple times. There is a email address you can reach out to. I posted on LinkedIn. I'll again put it in the Slack group. I'll put it in the comments section of the YouTube video after. If anybody remembers, it's just changed a couple times. It's like candidate dash something at Google. The challenge here that you might have though is if you weren't technically in process, they may not qualify it. Like that default email address is technically for those that were in process and didn't hear back. And so if you didn't technically have anything scheduled yet, I don't know if it will work, but I will put it in the comments section. And for some reason, my brain just has a block on this, and I used to have it as a banner, but here it is. Sorry. Google-candidate-support. I will double confirm that is the actual email address. But this is the old one that used to work. I might need to update that because I found out in January it was updated, and I just honestly can't remember if I've updated it since then. But try that one, see if that one bounces. I've seen candidate-google-support. Again, I'll put that up for you. Sorry, my brain just has a blocker on that email address. What unique qualities do you feel like will give you an edge during this time? There's really one: communication skills, right? And so communication is just going to be absolutely critical to standing out. And that's in every facet. It is not just about the interviews, it's how you engage and interact when you're trying to network, when you're having these initial conversations with the recruiters, how you communicate both verbally and written. What is your body language like from a communications perspective? That's the game changer. So let's just kind of talk about it. We have a little bit of time, so we'll chat through it. Initial communications. So, for example, I'll highlight something, a LinkedIn message that came to me late yesterday that's really common. Somebody reached out to me and they said, "Hey, Jeff, I'm going after this role at Google. Will you guide me?" What does that mean? What does that mean? Will you guide me? Do you want me to call you? Do you want me to spend all my time walking you through? And like, what does that mean? I don't know what that means. Right. So that's it's a failure to get my attention, but actually communicate with me. Will you guide me? I'm specifically looking for help with these three items, A, B, and C. So, how does this translate to like the recruiter conversation? If you reach out or you connect with them, say, hey, here's the role, give them the link to the role, include bullets for why you're a fit, reiterate your availability, give them as much availability as possible, be consistent with that availability, 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific time, Monday through Friday of every week, whatever it might be. Then again, communication is about providing like an updated resume, your contact information. We want to communicate all the information up front. Let's talk about a couple of things to focus in on in the interview. One, slow down. Everything's too fast, too fast, too fast. We expect our brain to really process information and come up with a perfect answer in under a second. And for the vast majority, 95% plus of us, we just can't do that. So I really want you to slow down. That is a huge communication skill. The level of detail is also a huge communication skill. Like, what does your interviewer know and not know? So again, if we're answering like a behavioral question, sometimes we're just assuming that they know so much information that they don't know. So much of that is the setup and then talking through how you did it. I'm getting a little off track because I could talk about communication for forever, but the best way is going to be providing really good detail, really pertinent detail. And then the best way to know if you're getting the right details out is you got to practice with other people just so they can tell you, hey, I had no idea what you were talking about. No, it was really organized. It was really good. You can come back and ask more specific questions. I know I kind of went on a tangent there, but I hope some of that information was helpful. You left your previous job and now you're looking, but it's taking forever. It's been 2 months with very few interviews. I've updated your resume. You've updated your resume, et cetera. You've used job versus ATS scanner software to match 94%, yet no responses. So I'm going to tell you the same thing I tell everybody. And I've been really hesitant I did a post on this on LinkedIn, but I've been really hesitant to be more critical. But we got a small audience in this live and you're showing up to interact with me. So the reality is that I see so many LinkedIn posts about people who are laid off or left their position and they're like, hey, I'm not hearing back. If the only method you're taking is applying and you're getting 94 matches and no responses, it means that you need to switch it up. It means that you need to start networking. Networking is a slow game. You're not going to see overnight quick responses like it typically doesn't happen because I want you to network with a giving strategy. So what does that mean? You come across manager Sue Smith. She's hiring for a like role, or she appears to be at a company that's hiring, something you can figure out from LinkedIn. You message Sue and you send Sue an article with something that's up and coming in the industry, something that's relevant. Remember, if you do any Google search, you go over to that right bar under tools, you can get articles that were posted within the last hour, 24 hours, week. So I always try and pull something that's pretty relevant, send that off to them and just say, looking forward to connecting. The challenge with so much of the networking out there is that people just say like, give me. I want you to give people something that's of value when networking, because just applying, it's not enough. 10% of all jobs are filled through applications, just 10%. So if the application process is the only thing we're focusing in on, and I don't know if that's all you're focusing in on, but it's just the ATS and the matching and all that stuff, it's not always going to be enough. So applications, they're not taking full control of the scenario. If you left your previous job, this means your full-time job is doing job search. So some of that should be applying, and then a lot of it should be networking. And then, of course, anybody who's on this live knows I'm a huge fan of LinkedIn. So that means your profile should be killer. up to date. Every facet of it should look absolutely perfect, and that you should be on there commenting, liking, and reaching out, especially to second connections and trying to network and proactively give. Um, the underutilization of LinkedIn just absolutely blows my mind, especially for job seekers. It's such a fantastic tool with so many great opportunities to open doors. And I think most of the people who are on this live know that that's how I got my job at Google. They found me, and they found me because I had an up-to-date LinkedIn profile. Again, I'm going on some tangents here because we don't have a ton of questions. So if anybody tells me I'm going on tangents, I'm happy to chop it down a little bit, but I hope that helps. Following up on my question regarding the Mr. Recruiter email, is now a good time to reach back, or should I wait a few months for the market to improve a little bit and then reach out? Reach out now. Okay, so let's go back to the theme of this live session. We don't know what it's going to look like in a few months. So trying to anticipate and control the job market and say, okay, well, when it's better in a few months, is it going to be better in a few months? Is it going to be worse in a few months? Like, I'd rather have you get in the door or try and get in the door now than wait for a future economic condition that we can't predict. And so again, with so much of my content, I think so much is we should control what we can control. And then the stuff we can't control, like future economic conditions, we shouldn't worry too much about that. I would just say get after it. I don't think that the job market's going to be great for the next couple of years. It's just my 2 cents. It's just the trends. It's just what I'm seeing. And big tech, Google at their peak had like 4,500 job openings. Are they ever going to go back to 4,500 job openings? Maybe never. Maybe never. I mean, that's just kind of the reality of the market. So it's going to be slower. So I would just say get after it. Now's a good time. Okay, hold on. Let's go back because I think this got cut from 1 to 2. What unique qualities? Okay, so we talked about communication. And then do you think it's more experience with value-driven roles? For context, you're a Scrum Master. I think it's more experience within... I mean, your experience is always going to be important. And again, I would go back to how you communicate, how that experience has had a positive impact on the organization, on your colleagues, on yourself. So nothing really trumps experience because that's how we all learn. So I think it really is important. And, the role of a Scrum Master is incredibly important for keeping things on, on track. So people in those roles know how to get things done. So again, how are you communicating those skills once you get into the interview process, I think will be critical. But experience, I think it's always an important item just because of how we learn. Since the market is a little challenging, I've seen some roles offering lower pay. I've noticed some roles are offering less money compared to before the recession. Should I stick with my last pay range or take a pay cut to have a job? Well, I guess the answer is it depends, right? What are we willing to sacrifice? And I think when it comes to money, so much of what I like to talk about is risk in a plan. And this may seem a little bit off basis, off track, but the reality is that how much risk you're willing to take on is very, very critical. And then having a plan. So, like, let's say you took a job at a lower pay, or could you wait 1, 2, or 3 months for the job that's higher pay? And then what does that income look like over the next year? I really like that planning because it helps us make better decisions financially. I would say that in the big tech companies, I actually did see Meta and Amazon lower their pay, which is kind of crazy. I did not see that at Google. It's kind of crazy because then you think about it from an internal equity perspective, not equity like in terms of shares, but internal equity meeting what the other employees are making, because there shouldn't be a big discrepancy in what all level 4 software engineers are earning. right? Or in your case, Anna, like what all level 3 or level 4 AVPs are earning, you shouldn't all of a sudden make way less than your colleagues. So it's just, I have seen it. I don't like it. They should pay for cost of labor in a given market. Now, maybe the cost of labor in San Francisco, for example, has gone down, and that's why they're adjusting. But from an internal equity perspective, especially at the big companies, that could get a little bit tricky. But really, financially, we're always thinking about risk and having a plan. I am far from a financial person or financial advisor. I actually pay somebody to help me with that stuff. But I hope that helps. We're at the 30s. At the 30s, I just like to do a quick prompt. Again, if you use the coupon code HIRED, HIRED, $200 off the interview mastery course. It's an awesome offer, and I'll run that offer through the end of tomorrow. I do interview coaching and negotiation coaching. You can find all this on the individual section of practiceinterviews.com. Join our free Slack group. Check out those 9 free resources. If you like what we're doing today, smash that like button and subscribe if you never have. Hey, Raul. It's nice to see you as well. I actually need to message you about something, so I'll DM you on Slack. But it's always good to see you. Thank you. I know it's late your time, so I appreciate you showing up. You're welcome. Thanks, Anna. I appreciate that. Okay, so we're out of questions. Again, I'm just going to kind of hang out and let's talk about a couple things. And obviously, as questions come in, I'm happy to answer them. Some interesting news in big tech is like the looming layoffs that are coming abroad. Like if you're US based, I think that I don't think, I know my audience is about 45% in the US and then the rest is global. So about 50% in the US, the layoffs look to maybe be slowing, I hope. But we're definitely seeing some layoffs come in some of the smaller offices abroad. And then there was that article that came out. I don't think it was this week. It was last week, where people can voluntarily take a severance, and that was from Amazon to Google. That there was some insider knowledge coming out, that there were going to be some of those opportunities to take a severance. And my recommendation. I don't think everybody's going to love this, right? And so the reality is that let's say you were a 8-year employee at Google and you got laid off. That categorizes a bunch of my friends who got laid off from Google. There's going to be some sort of mental reset that needs to take place. There's going to be some processing time, especially if you spent that long there. Maybe you thought you were going to never leave, or it was just like a great place for you to work. But those that are taking the time to process, but also working through it to get that next job, especially with a nice severance, like that could mean doubling up on income for 6 months, 9 months, up to 12 months. So I recommend, if people can mentally kind of get past it, to move on. Now, for anybody who's trying to get into big tech, like this is no reason. It's never a bad time to try and go in. There is a higher level of risk, meaning that some form of risk during the process that something's going to drop off, some form of risk of even like signing the offer and having them rescind. We haven't seen a lot of that. Coinbase and Meta were famously the 2 companies that really blew it on that item. I don't think you'll see much more of that, just based on the horrible press that happened when that happened. So these are just all things to consider. But life is short. When it comes to jobs, we should never sit and work for a bad manager that we just really don't like if we haven't tried to work on that relationship. Should never stay at a company that doesn't treat their employees right. So like I'm always going to say now is a good time to make a move, always. We always got to be looking for the next thing. And I'll tell everybody here, like the only thing I know about the rest of my career is that the number one thing and expectation that I've set for myself and goal that I've set for myself is to always be my own boss. I never want to work for anybody else besides myself. That's the decision I made. So just with that one decision, everything else will fuel that one decision, and I will make that work as long as I need to make it work. Just an example. Google is posting new roles, so I believe they're getting back on their feet slowly. Yeah, and so just for anybody who wasn't here really, really early on, we had a comment, and I think I can get to that pretty quickly. Um, we got this report, we got this from Max, and he said that contracts are needing to be approved by SVPs who report to Sundar, and then same, this should say FTE roles, so that with SVPs needing to approve new headcount, I think things are going to get pretty slow, but I hope it's not too slow. We'll go back to that. So Raul, Raul is kind of our data, what well was in the past our data guru on the Slack group. So Raul, I don't know if you have any new numbers that you want to share with the community in terms of total openings. If you don't have that, obviously I don't want you to go put that together now, but I love to see an uptick. I'm kind of hearing that there are more roles coming out, but I haven't really seen an uptick on my side in terms of like more clients coming in. Let's change the subject. Okay. How are AI opportunities going to manifest? Will we see some of those opportunity in tech, be it startups or big firms? Okay. Awesome. Victor, this is great. So I think the biggest thing that we need to realize is for any of us who sit behind a computer, have a desk job, AI is going to impact our jobs. It's kind of how we embrace it and how we learn to utilize the tools. It's going to be the most critical, because AI is probably not going to replace some of your very like skilled labor jobs that are probably actually a great field to get into now, because they're going to be able to demand a premium because there's such a need there. So that we're going to see way more hiring in the AI and ML space. And not that we haven't seen that over the last 10 years, but we'll see an uptick in hiring. And then what those people will be doing is they'll be basically working to eliminate their own job, their colleagues' job. So it will be really, really interesting to see. But it's going to manifest across the board. So you're going to see it in big tech. You're going to see it in startups. You're going to see pretty much, I think, every company, as long as they're established, trying to implement some form of AI to help drive their business. And obviously, if they're a software-based company, that's just going to be a big part of it. Appreciate your comment on LinkedIn. Any suggestions on how to make new contacts through second and third connections? Give. Everything is giving. Most of us on LinkedIn, especially like the super users or like the top 1%, and I'm definitely a top 1% user of LinkedIn, I would have to imagine, is just that, again, I'm very, very fortunate. And I just always want to start in this place that many people do come to me on LinkedIn and send me personal messages or personal emails that thank me. And I sincerely appreciate that. But the much bigger percentage of people reach out to me and they always ask me for something. So the giving I get is gratitude, but I never get any giving like, hey, Jeff, you should check out this article, or did you see this cool video? Like, I never get that. And so that's what I want people to do. I want them to find something that's new and relevant and interesting to their potential audience and share it. Especially with second connections, I think it's a great way to say, hey, Jane, came across your profile. I see that you're in the AI space. I saw this crazy article today on AI. Wanted to share it with you. Hope to connect. But don't ask for anything. I know I have mentioned this approach hundreds of times, but I still don't see it. And I just want to quickly go back to the one story. In my 5 years at Google, only one person did that. And guess what? I helped them. They ended up getting a job at Google. I didn't have the role they were looking for, but I helped them because they used a giving strategy. 1 in 5 years. So, and again, it could have been more, but I only remember one. And so the giving strategy on LinkedIn, it stands out because people aren't used to being given something. They're used to being asked for something. Absolutely. Thanks, Raul, always, for being here. What motivated you to not work for anyone else, be your own boss? Oh, such a big question. I mean, I think for me, It was a few things. Like number one, I did this LinkedIn post. I did a LinkedIn poll. I think it was late last week that said, "Have you ever been in the same position where one manager thinks you're excellent and the other one thinks you're terrible?" I've experienced that multiple times in my career where I literally was performing the same job at the same level, and one boss told me I was great, and one boss told me I was terrible. And not being able to control that scenario was just so critical for me to say, okay, I want to take back all the control. And if I end up hating my boss at the end of the day, it's hating myself as opposed to putting that on anybody else. So it was a lot of control. Um, Personally, my wife would probably tell you I don't like a lot of rules. So when rules come down on me, it like for me personally, that can cause me to shut down. I know that's probably way too much information, but that's kind of what happens to me when a lot of rules and I need to do this and I need to do that gets put on me. It mentally that shuts me down. The craziest stat though is if you haven't read The Nine Lies About Work, it's such a good book. And I've been talking a lot about this because when I read chapter 6, it just stuck with me. And what chapter 6 says is that people cannot accurately judge other people. So what does that mean? What the heck am I talking about? What that means is that Sue, Jane, and Bob are all going to see you and judge your performance in a different way because of their specific idea of how you should perform. And the more people you get reviewing your background, let's say for a performance review, the worse it gets because everybody has their own lane. So when I read that performance reviews are basically incorrect because people are going to judge you based on their own lane, that also was a very strong confirmation for me for why I want to be my own boss and stay my own boss. Whew. I know that was pretty long-winded. Thanks for the question. I'm always pretty much an open book, happy to answer anything. Do you think there is a higher bar for passing interviews in this environment? Are interviewers expected to expected to perform better than usual or else no hire? I think yes. I mean, I just, with less roles, like I'm just doing the simple math, right? Let's take Google. 1/5 of the roles are open, 1/4 of the roles are open. You're not going to get less applicants, maybe a little bit less during these economic times, but not a lot less. So 3 times, 4 times as many people applying for the same role. Yeah, it's going to be more challenging. The bar is going to be higher. It's not that they're actually saying internally, like, let's set this higher bar. It's just competition based. You're just going to have more competition. So yeah, I think anybody who says differently, I just don't think that the data would support that. Less roles, maybe less applicants, but still more overall applicants. Yeah. So yes, it's going to get tougher. And so what does that mean? You're here now. You're taking the right step. I always want to just tell people like how happy I am that they spend the time, hanging out on the lives or watching the videos. And it doesn't have to be my content. It can be any other of the great people out there doing the work. But this is part of it. Part of it is having these dialogue, having this conversation, trying to understand, what's going on and trying to better your skills, especially when it comes to communication and interviewing. Like you just got to double down and work really hard. Google in India has lesser than 40 open roles a couple months back. Now the number is over 100. Okay, that's awesome news. Okay, that's good. I mean, obviously for my business, I'd love to see more open roles, and it doesn't just have to be Google. It could be anywhere. I think my coaching helps with Google, but it's pretty generic. It would help with anybody. So it's always good. I want the jobs market to be amazing, obviously, for my business, but that's good to hear. Thanks for that data point. Do you believe that the narrative that those that are working remote and hybrid workplace will be the first to go? If so, why is that the case if productivity may be the same? So we've seen it's called RTO, return to office. And we've seen a lot of like these bigger companies saying, hey, like RTO is important. It's a critical indicator of whether companies are going to be successful or not, because people need to be in person to be successful. It's not true. It's not a true statement. Not everybody operates the same. That idea or concept is absolutely totally absurd and ridiculous. Some people perform better in the office. Some people perform better working from home. Some people are way more productive in the office. Some are way more productive from home. So, blanket statements like we need X to be successful is just not a true statement. Now, as humans, we are made up of energy. So, there is some importance of an energetic exchange, right? Like that's really important. And I talk a lot about that in this channel, whether people believe that or not, but we are made up of energy. And so, again, I think that there is some power of being face to face, but maybe that's me, right? My preference is I get a lot of energy off of other people. That's why I stopped working from home and I got an office just to be around people, even if I'm not engaging with them all the time. I just really like that energy. But this is just decisions being made at the top and saying, hey, it's more productive if we're in person. And that's just their opinion. Again, it goes back to what I was just saying before about accurately judging. People are going to look and understand the world in their own lane. And I'm no different. I have a judgment about what is good and what is not good. And again, that may work for one person, but might not work for another. I do think that this RTO thing is going to be really interesting, because if some of these big companies like Amazon was going to bring everybody back to the office, but they've been hiring remotely way before COVID. So if everybody all of a sudden has to go back to the office, a bunch of more of their workforce will leave, because many of them maybe have been remoter for 5 or 10 years, for example. Again, long-winded. I hope that answered your question. Tried to send me an article yesterday, but it couldn't send for some reason. Weird. Try again, or always jeff@practiceinterviews.com. You can send it there. Thanks. That's weird that it didn't go through, though. As companies become leaner and flatten the hierarchy, what should new and experienced engineering managers focus on? Great question. So again, I'm going down my own lane, and just understand that I think there's going to be tons of different valuable feedback here. The number one item that I look for in a leader is to care about me as a person first and an employee second. I want everybody who's on here, the limited audience that we have right now, think about all your previous bosses that you've had, current boss, previous bosses, and that formula, at least for me, makes sense. The bosses that cared about me as a person first and my work second were always my best bosses. Always. Like without a doubt, they were the ones that I just had a better relationship with. It made sense for me to work with them. So, because work is just such a small portion of our lives, and so to put everything focused in on this one item, we need to be checking in constantly as managers. And this isn't just eng managers, but managers in general. How is everything? Is everything okay? I want to create the psychological safety to say, hey, like personally, is there anything going on that I can help with? And then you can focus in on the business side, but you're always checking in on them as a person and doing what's best for them as a person. That will be the game changer. Flattening the hierarchy, I still haven't seen that. Companies claim to be flat, but I haven't really seen it. Even Google claims to be like flat, but there's lots of layers of management. And I actually experienced that. That's one of the challenges, just a quick sidebar. That's one of the challenges of big companies. I was, I got promoted and moved up to levels at Google, but by the time I left, I was, it was Larry when I started and then Sundar when I left, but I was many more layers away from Sundar than I was from Larry when I first started. So as these companies grow, the hierarchy is just going to continue to grow. Just a kind of a sidebar. I hope that helps. If you have other questions for like eng manager specific, but that's just going to be my comment for every manager. I downloaded a sample of the 9 lies. Okay, thanks for the suggestion. Again, if you read the 9 lies about work, you may instantly become an entrepreneur. It's just such a fantastic book. And again, chapter 6 for me, just like there's very few times I read a lot of business books, and there's very few times where my mind is absolutely blown and it just sticks with me. And lie number 6 from the 9 lies about work, like I just can't get over it. It's something I'm constantly thinking about and just reflecting back on all my jobs and realizing that that's why being an entrepreneur was a great move for me personally. Great question. Okay, cool. How would you recommend networking with people who are barely active on LinkedIn? For instance, their activity shows only a handful of likes and content not related to their job and work. Um, I Yes. So people who are not super active on LinkedIn, I don't focus a lot of time there. Um, you can still try, but I think the reality is that if they're not super active on there and really never have been, then the likelihood that you're actually going to get them to engage with you is probably pretty limited. It doesn't mean you shouldn't try, because maybe that pops, or some people, a lot of corporate people just don't use LinkedIn very often. But yeah, I would try to focus on people that are more active, because, and this is just such a great comment, because I actually never talk about this. People who are inactive on LinkedIn, that's usually anybody with less than 500 connections and isn't somewhat active. You never see the green dot, like they never post any activity. Like you can even tell as you go through like their experience, like some of the icons are gray, that that company has an icon, for example, and they just haven't updated it in a really long time. Yeah. I wouldn't spend too much time with them. Spend time with the people who are going to see it. So like if somebody sends me a message on LinkedIn, yeah, I have a default auto message that I had to include just because I get hit up so much, but I'm still going to see it. Like, can I respond to everything? No, I knowingly choose not to respond to everything, because again, some of the requests they didn't put enough time and effort into it for me to respond, but I will see everything. Yeah, great question. 25 watching, only 8 likes. Come on, people. Hey, if you like what I'm doing today, smash that like button. If you never subscribed, 10 a.m. Pacific every Tuesday, I go live, and then new content every other Monday. And by the way, I just changed the format of my YouTube channel a little bit. I started a second channel. It's going to be a little bit of a slow roll. I built a new side of the business to help corporations as well. And I'm doubling down on that. So I need to continue to post YouTube content there. But some of that content might be pretty interesting for individuals as well. So check that out. If you just go to my main YouTube channel and scroll down, it's highlighted at the bottom. I'm a fresher and my offer got revoked. Right now, applying to different companies, startups everywhere, but no responses at all. What would you advise to fill the gap of almost 6 to 7 months? 6 to 7 months in today's economic landscape and just in general, I'm not too worried about it. If you want to say, like, you can always put on your resume like side projects, or you could put like learning. And so if we're going back to like October of last year, you could say October 2022 to current learning, and you can kind of put some of the things that you're doing to learn or build your skills. I don't think that that is super necessary. Um, Again, you're applying a lot, so it's a really good opportunity to get into more of a networking approach. Us YouTubers in the career space laugh about the networking thing. It's usually the highest success rate, but the least utilized opportunity. So, giving approach, give that cool article or cool video, but do some networking. I don't need to see an update after 6 to 7 months. That's my personal opinion. When we start to get year and a half, maybe, but you're not there yet. And again, given the current economic landscape, I don't think anybody's going to think too poorly about somebody who has a 6 to 7 month gap, especially as a fresher. I hope that helps. Adding to the question about what motivated you to be your own boss, was it hard to leave a comfy job at Google and leave all the perks and benefits behind? Yeah, I mean, well, yes and no. So I knew I was going to leave for quite a long time. That was part of my plan. Things definitely turned later in my career there and were not going as well. That helped drive me. But I mean, if I'm being really candid, I stayed to get my last large stock vest and my bonus. And that's something I recommend to everybody. And like, I earned that bonus. That bonus that I took in 2018, I worked all of 2017. That equity that I got in early 2018 to that vest, I had earned all that money. So I didn't feel bad about taking it and then giving my 2 weeks. Um, so I kind of had the timing. At the time, I was earning a pretty good salary, even for recruiters at my level. I was out earning almost everybody. I love the free food. I think everybody's known the food. My wife and I talk. She's a Googler as well, and we talk about the free food all the time, and obviously the gyms and all that good stuff. I mean, yeah, but it was the right timing, and I think that I would say a lot of people thought I was crazy to quit with no job and just decide to go travel. But um, we got to take some risks in our career, and this is, I think, a big item to get back to when we talk about how to get a tech job in 2023. Like, what's your level of risk? Always be asking yourself that question. Like, how much risk are you willing to take on? And how much financial risk are you willing to take on? And then what's your scenario? We had no mortgage, no pets, no kids. So in those three scenarios, and I had saved almost all of, at that point, when I left Google, I had saved all of my stock. I hadn't cashed out a single share. So I knew leaving the company, I had these shares I could cash out if I couldn't figure it out on my own, so that was kind of the perfect storm to be able to leave. So, but I at least had a financial plan in mind. And that's what I encourage of everybody. Take risks, but have that financial plan. And just know that that plan will never be perfect. But I had kind of set myself up for that. But the plan to leave Google had been in place in my mind for a while. Hey, Jeff, just finished the last round of an interview a week ago on G. Haven't received feedback yet. So they opened a job opportunity yesterday. Does this mean anything? Should you be worried? No, no. Um, just follow up again. If it's been a week ago, I would follow up today. If you did follow up late last week or even early this week, wait a couple days, follow up before the end of the week. But if you have not followed up, I would follow up right now. Usually, I like to give the interview process about 5 business days. But if I haven't heard back after that, you got to start following up. And good luck. I got promoted recently. Okay, so we're going back to what makes a good ENG manager. Got promoted recently, and one of the expectations is that I contribute to the company headcount growth, already 5K globally. I don't have an equity component, so I'm conflicted about this expectation. Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's a reasonable request to help with the company growth. Um, you want to get something out of it, but I think that, this is all in due time. If you got promoted, maybe it's potential for another promotion. If you're able to help in this space, maybe there could be some equity down the line for you. And the way you can help with that headcount growth is really helping brand the organization on LinkedIn and even highlighting your job openings on your team. That is probably one of the biggest missed opportunities that I see from recruiters and hiring managers on LinkedIn. You can now highlight your open jobs at the top of your LinkedIn profile. It's a category. And I think that that's a great opportunity. And you could show the company, again, getting good branding in the LinkedIn background photo and spending some time highlighting the jobs. I think in the long run, it will work to your benefit. Look at like maybe the larger picture long term. I think a couple of those items might help. I watched a video, someone who quit Google after 2 years due to burnout. What are your thoughts on what seems to be a new generation's idea of working a 9 to 5 as a rat race? What psychological shifts are you noticing? Well, so much of the burnout. Okay, so somebody quit after 2 years. I don't think 9 to 5 is burnout, but I'm a little more old school, so I don't see that as burnout. I don't think 8 hours a day is a lot. I mean, I think I probably averaged 55 to 60 hours a week when I worked at Google. I think a lot of it also is like, what do we know about ourselves? I'm not the most efficient worker, period. Not working for anybody else, working for myself. Sometimes I lack the efficiency of others. I will still get it done, but sometimes it takes me longer. Other people can get it done shorter times. But 9 to 5, again, this is just my personal opinion. I just don't think that that's overwhelming and overworked. I think if you're working nights and weekends all the time and you're doing it for somebody else, then that's something to consider. There is a psychological shift, the quiet quitting. I know people don't like that term, but just not giving the company everything. And that depends on your trajectory, what you feel about the company. And this is why I know my audience isn't going to be a lot of entrepreneurs, right? But the reality is that that's why I love working for myself. Every single minute, second I put into the job, hour I put into the job, it's all for me. And I did that for every employer. I overworked. I was always a 50+ hour a week person. And a lot of times that wasn't appreciated, but now I get to appreciate it for myself. I hope that helps. I know that got a little off track. Thanks for being here. You signed up for the paid interview mastery course and really enjoyed it. Awesome. I mean, my number one recommendation is, like, sometimes people come back to me. I had somebody come back to me a year later, and again, it's just being very candid, and said, "Hey, your course had no value," but then I can go into the system and see that they didn't even take the course. So, with any course, the vast majority of people who buy courses don't actually take them. It's only like 5 to 10% of people will finish an online course. If you take that interview mastery course and play all out, hands down, you'll be way, way better at interviewing. That's what I think. And that's the feedback I've gotten from the people who have really taken the course, completed 80+% of the course. Thanks for that feedback. You got a verbal offer for Google TVC last week. Thanks for your help. And the recruiter said the pay rate is fixed, however. I really, really challenge that statement, because it's not, that's not Google driving that, right? Like, the recruiter who helped well, they should have been, if they were an external recruiter, it's never fixed. It just means that they don't want to move their margin. I would kindly push back and say, look, this is a great opportunity. It's a great offer. If you're making 50 an hour, say at $55 an hour, this is a no-brainer for me. Again, I would push back, because again, you're just cutting into their margin. That's all it is. They can move it. They're just being unwilling. I think it's awesome. You may already be past that point, but even at the contract rate, I would always push back, always, in a very gracious and kind way. Okay, so we're giving some ideas. So put freelance developer, hire yourself through friends and family for side projects on Upwork. You can always do freelance, or put freelance in there, right? Like freelance developer, whatever you're working on. You can always do that. And yeah, just putting yourself on Upwork or Fiverr or whatever one of those third-party platforms. It's a good way to get around a job gap. But I don't, again, like for me as a recruiter, I just don't look negatively at those job gaps. I never did. If we're talking years and years, it's one thing, but short job gaps, especially for a fresher, I think it's not a deal breaker. It never was for me. You've been wanting to take a 1 to 2 year career break for a long time to work on some personal software projects that won't necessarily make much money or be successful. How do I position that on a resume to come back to the industry as a suite? So I think you do exactly what we just said. This could be freelancer, this could be whatever, and you just bucket it. And sometimes that's going to be multiple things. It's not going to be just one project. It's going to be multiple projects that you throw underneath there. If you financially can step away, then do it. My only comment would be software projects that won't necessarily make much money or be successful. Or we could just change the mental mindset and say, software projects that have a high likelihood of being very successful. I just want you to manifest that and see the opportunity there. But I think it's always good to step aside and try something else and try to work for yourself, because I think that's the future economy is much more individual driven. And we're already seeing that shift, less big corporate, much more individual focused, especially global economy, easy access. I mean, I've never met with a client face to face ever in my entire almost 4.5 years of doing this. I've never had a client, not like for other things maybe, but not like client, like coaching. It's always been virtual. So there's a ton of opportunity to work for yourself in today's environment, as we know. So I say go for it, and just kind of say like there are great opportunities to make money, because you just never know how something's going to hit. Great answers. This is my first live stream and got a lot of value to assist me in the next step. Got to head out. Thanks a lot, Jeff. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you. Okay, we're at the end of questions. I'm going to prompt on my services. If any additional questions come in, happy to answer them. If you use the coupon code HIRED, $200 off our interview mastery course. That's through tomorrow. I'm going to run that special all the way till midnight Pacific time tomorrow. I do one-on-one interview and negotiation coaching. You can find it at practiceinterviews.com. Again, go to the individuals section. In our Slack group, we have almost 4,000 members. It's been slow, but you can do peer one-on-one practice with people. It's all free. The community really holds each other up and answers questions. So join our Slack community. And then I really do like those 9 free resources at practiceinterviews.com. I spent a long time building those, and I think they're just really, really helpful. And I think any one of those free resources will help you. What are your thoughts about FIRE? I've never seen this before. I love this. Financially independent, retire early. Okay. So I actually do. I've never heard of that. I love it. I love that it's called FIRE. That's amazing. I think that there's a little bit of a misconception of what we should be working towards. Again, strong personal opinion. You can work towards retirement, or you can work towards financial freedom. They're very, very different. So what do I mean? Well, my goal personally is to be financially free in the next 5 years. A lot of things are going to have to go right for that to happen. But by setting a financial freedom goal as opposed to setting a retirement goal, I kind of changed the mindset. It doesn't mean I'm going to stop working. It means that the goal is to get to that place to not have to earn additional income for the rest of my life. So again, in the next 5 years, many, many things have to happen, but I've planned for those things. I have a plan to achieve and reach those goals, and we'll see. But I'm still confident and positive that I can reach that. But financial freedom over retirement, because I actually like working. I enjoy it. I wouldn't stop working. It might not be in the same facet. My plan is to do much more nonprofit work in the next 5 years, but still, regardless, the financial freedom path, I think, is better than the retirement path. But I like FIRE. I've never heard of that. I think unlimited PTO is a scam and end of employment comp settlement evasion saving technique. I personally don't apply to any such companies. Am I missing anything? Okay. 100% agree with this. Unlimited PTO is a total scam. It's BS. It puts so much pressure on employees to not take time off because it's unlimited. So I think it's a total scam too. I worked for one company that offered it, and I never took vacation. And then, of course, when I left, I get paid out nothing. Now, scam, I don't know. Maybe that's like a little aggressive, but I'm with you. We are 100% aligned. I do not like it at all. Um, I would, I don't want to say avoid those companies because if it's like the perfect storm, perfect opportunity, but yeah, it's just a basic way to say we're not going to pay out on any vacation time and we're going to put a ton of pressure on you when you do take vacation. Totally agree. Yes, if you search fire, you're probably going to go down a big rabbit hole for sure. This live has pushed the needle for me to become an entrepreneur in the very near future. Thank you for the inspiration. Yeah, so I actually did a post on this on LinkedIn yesterday, and I'll kind of reiterate it. Number one, if you're going to become an entrepreneur, financial planning. That is absolutely paramount and number one. You have to have an idea or concept in mind of what you're willing to do and not willing to do, right? Come in with that financial plan. That's how much money do you need to feel safe? What if there was a 20%, 30% downturn in your investments? Like, how long can you go? Financially plan. Second, you have to be able to market your services. Marketing does not need to be traditional marketing. I don't do any marketing. I should and probably need to start. And it's something that I'm thinking about. But all my marketing is through free content. But that's still a marketing strategy. And it's hard. It's hard to constantly come up with new content. Showing up for these lives is great. This is not hard. I love interacting and engaging with the community. But those new content videos every other Monday, it's hard. It takes some time, but that's a part of the marketing efforts to get clients, right? And 99.99% of people are going to absorb my content for free, which is great because that small percentage pays me well. It's the ones who come in and pay for services or the course. Third is the compound effect. You just got to show up. You just got to keep showing up every single day. And I think that so much of what people don't see is the compound effect that happens during times that traditionally people don't work, evenings, weekends, holidays. And I've done it all. I rarely take a single day off. But I like what I do. So it doesn't feel like a burden. I don't look at a Monday through Friday schedule. I don't look at my week that way. Just look at each new day as an opportunity to push the business forward. And so the compound effect is really going to be critical as well. There's a million other items, but just don't worry when things start slow. It takes a while. Like this YouTube channel, you might see the 44,000 subscribers, but it took me 1 year to get 1,000. And for the first 5 months, literally nobody watched. The YouTube algorithm picked up a program manager, my first program manager interview video. And that is what kind of started things. But it took 5 months. For 5 months, literally, I couldn't even get my friends and family to watch. Nobody would watch. So having a little bit of patience. Just like I launched the new YouTube channel like over a month ago. I mean, I have 44 subs on that new YouTube channel. Nobody's watching those videos. I just got to trust that if I continue to build the content that people will come and watch. If you haven't checked it out, check it out for sure. But those are some of my tips and tricks, but start with the financial planning. That's number one. You just got to make sure you can provide for your family, you can eat, etc. And then everything else will figure itself out. What should a LinkedIn headline contain? I just have my designation there. I see people adding skills, mottos, slogans. What's the purpose of a headline and what's an effective one? Hey, if you're an engineering manager, I think that's a pretty good headline. I don't think it needs to be crazy, but you could put your name, comma, after your last name, comma, engineering manager. And then in the headline below your name, you could say, I focus in on AI, ML, whatever it is, so you can get a little bit more specific about your skill set. Because again, this will allow people to maybe come and try and pluck you and steal you and maybe give you a better job opportunity. But it's just there can be some specificity there. So I really like first name, and last name is comma, your title, and then in the headline, just get a little bit more specificity there. I'm not a huge fan of some of the creativity that people try to bring to the headlines. I want it to be much more clear and concise and straightforward. I want to imagine that somebody's never landed on my profile. They're landing there for the first time, and I am not confusing them. I'm very, very clear about who I am and what I do. That would be my recommendation. Okay, this has been super fun today. Again, if any last second questions come in, I'm happy to answer them as we wind down. Practiceinterviews.com, $200 off our interview mastery course. If you use the coupon code HIRED, HIRED, that will be available until midnight Pacific time tomorrow. I do one-on-one interview and negotiation coaching, available at practiceinterviews.com. Join our free Slack group. Check out those 9 free resources. I go live 10 a.m. Pacific time every Tuesday. New original content every Monday. If you go to my current YouTube channel, scroll down to the bottom, check out my new corporate site. It's on there. About 10 videos uploaded there so far, and I'll continue to add new content. If you like what I did today, smash that like button. If you've never subscribed, consider subscribing. Thank you so much for being here, and I will be back next week at 10 a.m. Take care.